Oh, don't you know? All that burning love.
What's up, guys? Welcome to this video on Elvis is the Man. This is a good one. So, did you know that Elvis actually prepared himself for what he would say to his audience just in case they started heckling him on his next tour? So, what the real situation was, like, you know, the book Elvis, What Happened came out, I believe it was July of 1977. So Elvis was getting ready to start his August tour, and you know, as it got closer to this tour date, he was stressing about this book because he didn't know how he'd be perceived. What if the fans that showed up there, what if part of them started heckling him? What if they started calling him fat or this or that or a junkie? What would Elvis do? How would he handle that? So he actually put some things together, and if things got out of order, out of hand, he would read this script, or he was planning to read this script as like an apology. He says he was gonna take some time off and get healthy, to drop it. He was gonna admit to it and apologize. Now, think about how like humble Elvis is. He didn't, you know, deny it, or he wasn't planning on denying it. He was gonna own up to it. And, you know, I think that's, you know, pretty incredible in a few ways. Imagine standing up there, Elvis Presley, facing maybe 10, 15, 20,000, 25,000 people. Actually, I don't think the tours, the stadiums really were that big on this tour that he was going to. It was obviously canceled. So, yeah, but I don't think they were that big. But think about Elvis facing, and he actually had something prepared, and he was working on something in case they would, you know, confront him. So, boo him. In this video, I'm gonna talk a little more on detail about what he was gonna say, and then stay tuned to the end of it for more info. All right, guys, so let's get into the details of this video, the nitty-gritty of this particular topic. So this actually took place a few days before Elvis passed away. He had about 2 months off from this June tour that we see here up until his next one, which was gonna be starting in Maine, August 17th. So the story takes place, Elvis is sitting in his room and really brooding about the book that was coming out about him. Elvis, What Happened? He, you know, what he was concerned about was, you know, what are my fans going to think of me? How am I going to be perceived? Is this the end of my career? You know, there were times where he would just kind of push it aside, push it out of his mind and be optimistic and be happy. And there was other times where he'd get very, very depressed about it. He'd cry about it. He confided in Billy Smith a lot. And Billy goes on to tell us a few things that are pretty enlightening. So basically, Elvis was kind of brainstorming and thinking on what he was going to do in case the crowd, his fans, turned on him. What was he going to do if they yelled from the audience, drug addict, or started throwing things or got hostile? So he had some things written down, like a little script. He wasn't going to bring the script on stage. He was just going to take it from memory. But at first, the first scenario he had in his head was, okay, if they get hostile with me, if they start booing, throwing things, yelling out things to me, where the show is kind of interrupted. First of all, if the crowd didn't do anything, he wasn't going to do anything. He was just going to let it ride. But if they did get unruly, his first plan was he was going to tell them, hey, you know, what you heard about me is not true. Yeah, I do take things, but it's because I need them for health reasons. And then he was going to bring up Dr. Nick on stage, and then Dr. Nick, I assume, would just, you know, back up everything Elvis said to hopefully quiet the audience. So in this first scenario, Elvis was just going to deny everything. But then as he thought a little more about it, he pretty much figured that the best defense is, you know, to have no defense at all. And that means just basically throw yourself on the mercy of your fans. And I think Elvis's fans would have been merciful. This second theory was going to be, if they got hostile, he was going to just come out and admit it. He's going to admit to what he was doing. He's going to say that after his tour, after this August tour, he was going to take some time off and get himself straightened out. And you know, I really think that this is a very possible situation that could have happened. The book had made some waves, but I think that it very well could have went down like this. Now, Billy was trying to comfort Elvis, and he reminded him that, while they're in his room, he reminded him that, how many things have been said about you, printed about you over the years? Elvis says millions of things. And Billy says, and they haven't stuck. This book will probably just, make a splash the first few weeks, and then everybody will pretty much forget about it. And that did make Elvis feel better, but he did have a backup plan also, like I said. And I do think that if he came up with this type of challenge, if he came up against it, I think he would have faced it head on. And I think we probably would be looking back at this time in Elvis's life, pretty much, 74 to 77 for the most part, and be like, wow, it was very rough. It got close at times, but he took some time off and he got himself together. And I think we would have, really admired Elvis for that. I think that this is a challenge. We saw him overcome so many challenges, get himself right for the 73 special, for the comeback special, all the things, all the times he was presented with a challenge, he overcame it. And I think this really would have been one of them. I think that, there was a lot of times where Lamar or others said, why don't we just take some time off? We'll go to Hawaii and we'll get things straightened out. But Elvis didn't do it. He said he had too many obligations. But at this time, I think he would have took them up on their offer. I think he would have took some of his friends and family with him to Hawaii. And I think he would have recuperated and rehabilitated himself. And I think it would have been a success. And, like in that little press conference with Sonny and Dave Hebler, I think that, when Sonny says that they wrote the book out of hurt, but they also wrote it so that it would be a challenge to Elvis to straighten himself up and to prove them wrong. I think that if Elvis's fans would have reacted this way, I think Elvis would have came back from it. I really do think he would have kicked the habit. So guys, I want to remind you that my views and opinions are based on the information that I've gathered over time, over the years. So some people say, oh, you can't believe what these people have said. Elvis wouldn't have done that, or other person said this. So these videos are for your entertainment, and they're for you to decide. They're for you to decide, I believe this or I don't believe that. So it's up to you. But I hope you do enjoy them because they are for your enjoyment. And make sure you hit the like button. It helps to grow and expand the channel. If you do like the content coming out, subscribe if you haven't already. Check the description of this video, as always, for more information, other links to channels I run, like a fitness and Bible page, and Patreon, which is going back up. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Do you know how much the book is sold? How many copies it's sold?
We have no idea.
It just was released.
We have no idea, and we don't really care.
To be able to say our side and how much we did love the guy and how much admiration we had for him. When we wrote this book, it was out of bitterness and hurt to start with. I tell you, when we were given 3 days notice by his father and a week's pay, after 16 years, 20 years, 2.5, 3 years with Dave, we all had families, and he wouldn't talk to us himself. He flew out of town, and he had his father do it.
Why did he terminate you?
At the time, it was told us by his father that there was a cutback on expenses, which I knew wasn't true. And he called me and he said, so we're going to have to let a few people go. And I said, and I'm one of the people? And he said, yeah. He said, but there's going to be others. And I asked him, well, would you tell me who? And he said, no, I'd rather tell him personally. It turned out to be Dave and Red. And since then, there have been rumors that got back to us that it was because of the lawsuits that were against him. One for me, where I had hit a guy